You've been lying on the couch for an hour, scrolling on your phone, and you can't tell if you're being lazy or if your body is genuinely begging you to rest. And the guilt of not knowing is somehow worse than either option. Hey, welcome to Betterish, where we make self-improvement less painful. Today we're talking about something that I think almost everyone struggles with, but almost nobody talks about honestly. The difference between being lazy and being tired. Because here's the truth. We throw the word lazy around like it's a personality trait, like it's this fixed flaw in someone's character. But most of the time, when you think you're being lazy, you're actually just exhausted. And the reason this matters is because the solution to laziness and the solution to exhaustion are complete opposites. If you're lazy, the answer is to push through, to build discipline, to just start. But if you're exhausted, pushing through is the worst thing you can do. It's like pouring water into a leaky bucket and wondering why you still feel empty. So you need to know which one you're dealing with. And that starts with unlearning a lot of what we've been taught about rest and productivity. Let's start with where the guilt comes from. Most of us grew up in a culture that equates worth with output. If you're not producing, not achieving, not doing something visibly useful, you're wasting time. Rest is something you earn, a reward for hard work, not a baseline need. So when you find yourself on the couch at 2 p.m. with nothing done, your brain doesn't say, I must be tired. It says, you're being lazy. You should be doing something. What's wrong with you? And that voice, that inner critic, is loud. It's been trained by years of hustle culture, by comparison to other people who seem to be doing more, by a nagging feeling that if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. But here's what's actually happening in your body and brain. There's a big difference between the resistance you feel before starting something and the depletion you feel after giving too much. Laziness, or what we call laziness, usually shows up as resistance. You don't want to start. The task feels annoying or boring or pointless. But once you start, you can usually get into it. You find your rhythm. The friction was in the beginning, not in the execution. Laziness is a motivation problem, and the fix is often just lowering the bar and starting small. We literally talked about this last time, the 2-minute rule. Start tiny, build momentum. Tiredness, on the other hand, shows up as depletion. It's not that you don't want to start, it's that you physically and mentally cannot. You start and you can't sustain it. You read the same paragraph 3 times and absorb nothing. You open your laptop and stare at it. You try to do something you normally enjoy and it feels like dragging yourself through wet concrete. That's not laziness, that's your system running on empty. And no amount of discipline or motivation hacks is going to fix a depleted battery. You can't mindset your way out of genuine exhaustion. So how do you tell the difference? I want to give you a few questions to ask yourself when you're in that gray zone. First, ask yourself, am I avoiding this task or am I avoiding everything? If it's one specific task you're dodging, the email you don't want to write, the workout you're dreading, but you have energy for other things, that's probably resistance. That's the lazy-ish feeling, and the fix is to just start, shrink it down, get going. But if you're avoiding everything, if even easy, enjoyable tasks feel impossible, if the idea of doing anything at all sounds unbearable, that's depletion. Your tank is empty. Pushing harder will only drain it more. Second, ask yourself, how did I sleep? And how have the last few days been? This sounds obvious, but we're remarkably bad at connecting our energy levels to our recent history. If you slept 4 hours last night, or you've been running on fumes for a week, or you just came out of a high-stress situation at work or in your personal life, your body is going to shut down. That's not a character flaw, that's biology. Your nervous system is waving a white flag. Listen to it. Third, and this is the one that really cuts through the noise. If you rested right now, genuinely rested, not guilt rested where you're lying there mentally beating yourself up the whole time, but actually rested, would you feel better in an hour? If the answer is yes, you were tired. If the answer is no, if rest sounds boring and unsatisfying and you're just avoiding the discomfort of starting, you were dealing with resistance. The body knows. You just have to ask it honestly and be willing to hear the answer. Now, here's the part that trips people up. Even if you determine that you're genuinely tired and not lazy, the guilt doesn't just disappear. Because we've been taught that rest is unproductive, that resting is the opposite of improving. But that's backwards. Rest is not the opposite of productivity. Rest is part of productivity. When you sleep, your brain consolidates memories and clears out toxins. When you take breaks, your creativity and problem-solving improve. When you let your body recover, you come back stronger. Athletes know this. They don't train at maximum intensity every single day. They build in rest because rest is where the adaptation happens. The work breaks you down, the rest builds you back up. You need both. And if you skip the rest, you don't get stronger. You get injured, you get burned out, you get sick. Your body will force you to rest eventually, and it won't be on your terms. The problem is we've learned to rest badly. We collapse onto the couch and scroll for 2 hours, and we call it rest. But that's not rest. That's dissociation. Your brain is still being stimulated, still processing information, still in a low-grade state of stress. Real rest, the kind that actually recharges you, looks different. It might be a nap. It might be lying in a quiet room with no screens. It might be doing something mindless with your hands, cooking, doodling, folding laundry. The key is that you're not consuming content, you're not problem-solving, and you're not guilty about it. Guilt-free rest. That's the goal. And it's a skill, not a default. You have to practice letting yourself off the hook. So here's my challenge to you. Stop using the word lazy for a week. Just ban it from your vocabulary, both out loud and in your head. When you feel that pull toward the couch, instead of calling yourself lazy, ask the real question. Am I resisting or am I depleted? And if you're depleted, rest. Actually rest, without the guilt narrative running in the background. Because you cannot punish yourself into being a better person. You can only take care of yourself into being a more capable one. And sometimes taking care of yourself looks exactly like doing nothing. On purpose, with permission. Here's your one thing challenge for today. Take 5 minutes, set a timer, and do nothing. Not scrolling, not listening to a podcast, not half watching a video, nothing. Just sit or lie down and let your brain be quiet. If thoughts come, let them pass. If guilt shows up, notice it and let it pass too. 5 minutes of actual, genuine, unapologetic rest, and see what your body tells you when you finally give it permission to speak. Subscribe if you're trying to be a little betterish. See you next time.